Hello students. Today we are going to see a new chapter which is known as Introduction to Database Management System. So before going to that, points to remember of every chapter is very important here. You can see that the entire chapter is given at a short uh, important points. It is very easy to learn all these points, and even you can see that some of the 2 marks or 1 marks can be referred from this part of the chapter. So take some time to read all these points to remember, and some of the bold letters can be asked in bold letters questions can bold letter points can be asked as 1 mark in your exams. Okay, so try to allocate some time to read all these points to remember. Okay, so now let's go into the chapter. So the topic is introduction to database management system. So to in this chapter we are going to learn about a relational model of data. So and understand the query languages of database, and this enables us to write SQL commands and query processing to enhance the programming skills and the techniques used in MySQL. Okay, so here you can see that what is meant by data. So any facts of a user or a software can be stored in any kind of information is stored, okay, in your computer. So this is data. So what is relational model of a data? Okay, so they will be creating a model. Okay, model means say for example, before creating an entire building, before building the entire building, they will be creating a small sized model of it, so to display how this project will be there. So likewise, before implementing a big software, they will be creating a small model of it. Before creating the big size software uh, to the that will be used by the user, they will be creating a small model which has some problems also. Okay, so this model will be comparing two set of data. Okay, two sets of data which is already been created. So this is known as relational model of data. So next thing is query language and database. Okay, so this database is a collection of data that is stored in the form of tables. Okay, rows and columns. So this is the table, and all the information is stored in the form of table in each row. So this query language is the language or programming language that is used only on database to retrieve some information. So this SQL language, structured SQL means structured query language. So it is a language that is used to drive uh, that is used to retrieve information from the database. So you can see that unlike programming languages like Java, Python, C++, so this SQL is also a programming language, but it is used to store information and retrieve information from the database. So uh, all the application, like all the softwares or all the uh, application will be using this database to database to store in data and to get data. Say for example, our school student information system. Okay, so your your admission number, your name, your father's name, mother's name, date of birth, fees details, mark details, everything will be stored in the database only. Okay, so only the software application can access this database by using this SQL. query language. Okay, structured query language. So to enhance the programming skills and the techniques by using this MySQL. So MySQL is a software that provides uh, services like uh, creating database using SQL language. Okay, so most of the small scale uh, small scale database will be created by using this MySQL software, which is free of cost. Okay, it is open source software. You can just download this MySQL application from the internet, and you can install it, and you can create your own database. Okay, so this is a completely open source software. You can use it on your own. Okay, so in this chapter we are going to see all these things. Okay, so the first thing is introduction to database management system. So it is shortly given as DBMS. Okay, database management system. The DBMS stands for database management system. So let us break down the word, what they really means. Okay, a database is a place where we store, retrieve, and manage data. So what's a data then? Meaningful information like your name, your favorite color, etc. To complex data like astronomical data that scientists handle, everything comes under this database. The management system refers to the set of program to manage the data. We have uh, we have with various actions like store, retrieve, filter, etc. Some of the popular database management system is MySQL, Oracle, etc. Giving protection to the data, user friendly for the users are some of the notable features of good DBMS. So DBMS is a software like MySQL, Oracle, etc. that stores information in the tabular form. Okay, so introduction to DBMS. Uh, our database management system DBMS is a system software for creating and managing database. The DBMS provides user and programmer with a systematic way to create, retrieve, update, and manage data. What type of data is stored in the database? In database, we would be grouping only related data together and store them under one group called table. Okay, so this helps in identifying which data is stored where and under what name. Okay, so say for example, student details. Okay, student details means student details is a table that will contain student name, admission number, student class which is currently being studied by the student, and father's name, mother's name, address of the student. So every details will be stored. So only this particular data will be stored in the student name. So student fees details means the fees details of the students will be uh, stored in the table. Okay, so only particular group of data or particular data will be stored in the table. Okay, so you can identify it just by using the name itself, and you can retrieve the information from it. Okay, so evolution of DBMS, the concept of storing the data starting before 40 years in various formats. So back before 40 years they try to store some data in various formats. In earlier days, they used punch cards technology to store the data. These and then files were used. The file systems were known as predecessor of database system. whereas accessing method in the file system were indexed, random, and sequential access. The file system has more limitations like data duplication. Same data is used by multiple resources for processing, thus creates multiple copies of the same data, wasting the space. High maintenance, accessing cost, and verifying data consistency needs high maintenance cost. Security, less security provided to the data, so database system become popular to overcome all the above limitations of file system. So these are all the disadvantages of using file system and punch cards. Okay, punch cards means the data will be punched in the paper card. Okay, so if the hole, punch means a hole will be created in the paper card. If the hole is there, then it is created as one, considered as one, and if the hole is not present, then it is considered as zero. Okay, by this feature they have created uh, data, they have represented a data in the paper. So this kind of storing information has some limitations, so they try to change it to the file system. So they'll be creating a particular folder, paper folder, and they will print all the required data in a sheet of paper and kept it in the folder. Okay, so which is very hard to maintain. Okay, so maintain, and it has some disadvantages like data duplication. So the same data will be printed again and again and kept it in the different folder. So this kind of data duplication arise a big problem. So the next thing is high maintenance. So if you want to access data, then you have to search all the data to get the required information. So it creates high maintenance, and you should protect the paper data. Okay, so the data will be stored in a paper, and it has a high risk of getting fire accidents. Okay, so the paper must be maintained in such a way that to avoid fire accidents. Okay, so security issues. Okay, anybody can view it. Okay, so if you know where the data is present or in which shelf the data is present, they can easily get into the office and see the data. So the security is also there. So to avoid all these things, they have created a database management system to store the information. So first thing is there exist a few standards that apply to all forms of database management system like RDBMS and Object Database Management System ODBMS. So these are all particular standards like ISO for products and FSSAI. Okay, so for food safety and authority. Okay, so these are all the standards that are kept to safeguard the products. So likewise, this RDBMS and ODBMS are the standards for creating for safety and security of the database softwares. Okay, so the first thing we are going to see is ACID property. Okay, so the acronym stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Okay, so atomicity means you can see that all or nothing. Okay, atomicity follows the thumb rule, all or nothing. So while updating the data in the database, uh, for the user, performs the update operation. This update operation is called a transaction, and it is either committed or aborted. So committed means successfully updated, aborted means it is failed. Okay, the update is failed. Say for example, you are transferring some amount to the particular client or any other person by using this UPay or PhonePay. Okay, any payment option. Okay, so you can see that when you make the transaction and the transaction is complete and successful, then you will get a message like the transaction is complete and the amount is transferred from your account to that particular account. So if the transaction is failed in any part of the transaction, say for example, your account is from your account the amount is reduced, okay, which means debited, but the other party of the transaction doesn't receive the amount. Okay, so this is a small failure of the transaction. So what happens, the the transaction get aborts, the amount which is the cash or the amount which is debited in your account will be credited automatically back to your account itself. Okay, so this is way of transaction. Okay, it is a way of clearing or rollback means doing the work which is incomplete from backwards. Okay, so this is rollback operation. So this can be achieved by using this atomicity. Okay, next is, so this is what it's given here. So concurrency control and locking. So in this DBMS mechanism used DBMS mechanism used for data sharing, the same data is shared among multiple users. Proper access control is needed, and privilege of changing the application data items is controlled through locking. Okay, so here you can see that not everybody can able to access the data. Okay, so few members who has the privilege to access the data can only be using the data, not other than that will be able to use it. So next is uh, DBMS database model. So with this we'll finish the class today. DBMS we'll see the DBMS database model in the next class. Thank you, students.